Live from Toronto, Canada, The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio, AM 740.
And welcome to the Audio Imaginarium. Come on in, weary traveler, hang your cloak on a peg, grab a stool, and come gather around the fire. There are stories to be told, and you are among friends. Jen Hobbs is with us, the author of American Hemp. She's standing by, and she'll be with us for the full 2 hours to discuss this amazing cash crop, hemp, recently legalized in the United States as part of the 2018 Farm Bill. Hemp is quite a miraculous little plant. It can be used as a fuel. It can be used as a food, as a medicine. It can provide shelter, clothing. Heck, it can even remove lead and other impurities from our soil. So why did it take so gosh darn long to legalize it? And in some jurisdictions, they legalized marijuana before they legalized hemp. We'll get into all of that. And we will take your phone calls in the second hour. So just kick back and have a listen as the conversation unfolds, and then come prepared with questions and comments in the second hour when we'll open up the phone lines. And when you call, please say hello to our recently new technical producer, Owen Wolf. Ryan is running our live stream on YouTube, and if you haven't already subscribed, it's called Strange Planet. We also, by the way, podcast, we post my podcast, Conspiracy Unlimited, up there on the YouTube channel. And from time to time, episodes of my old podcast, The Rock and Roll Twilight Zone. Remember that? Speaking of which, Ryan, if you're listening, we should post parts 1 and 2 of the Kurt Cobain episode. That was we just passed the 25th anniversary of Kurt Cobain's death, so it might be kind of timely to post those up at the YouTube channel. And he just sent me a note saying, we will do that this week. All right, my good man, thank you. Just a reminder, I will be hosting Coast to Coast AM this Saturday, April the 13th, and Sunday, April the 14th. However, there will be a brand new conspiracy show coming your way on the 14th, next week. But a little telling tales out of school, we'll be pre-recording that a little earlier in the day so that I can make it into the studio to do Coast to Coast. And there'll be no live YouTube stream next week, but we are streaming live this week. Eric Mitchell from MUFON will be with me next week, and he'll share his incredible abduction story along with our resident paranormal investigator, best-selling author, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, will be here in the second hour for our monthly paranormal news roundup. That's next week on The Conspiracy Show. So December of last year marked a large, unprecedented victory for cannabis. The 2018 Farm Bill passed, and with it, hemp became legal in the United States. And what the federal government there had listed for decades, get this, as a Schedule I narcotic, right up there with heroin, folks. Well, it was finally classified as an agricultural crop, giving a great promise to the rise of a new American hemp industry. Now, here's what this new domestic crop can be used for, and what makes it a superior product. Or rather, we will discuss what makes it such an amazing and superior product, and what made it illegal in the first place. We'll also talk about the many health and medical benefits of hemp. Jen Hobbs weighs in on how hemp can improve existing industries, from farming to energy to, get this, 3D printing. Can't wait to ask her about that. Plus, how it can make a serious impact on climate change by removing toxins from the soil and by decreasing our dependence on plastics and fossil fuels. Well, you know my position on man-made global warming. That being said, pollution is a problem. We need to purify our soil. There's no question about that. American Hemp lays out where we are as a nation on expanding this entirely new yet ancient domestic industry, while optimistically reasoning that by sowing hemp, we can grow a better future and save the planet in the process. Jen Hobbs has been a publicity consultant for the greater part of her career. She's worked behind the scenes with Jesse Ventura since 2007 and shares his enthusiasm for searching for the truth, no matter where it leads. That's what we say on this program. In 2016, she co-authored Jesse Ventura's Marijuana Manifesto, which inspired this book, American Hemp: How Growing Our Newest Cash Crop Can Improve Our Health, Clean Our Environment, and Slow Climate Change. Jen Hobbs, welcome to The Conspiracy Show. How are you?
Hi, Richard. Thank you so much for having me. That was a great intro.
My pleasure, and thank you for joining us and hanging out for 2 hours. The hemp plant, contrast with the marijuana plant, because they are different, but some people may not realize that.
Right. And I think a lot of people might not realize that because of the way it's always been grouped. It's always been considered a drug, just right up there with marijuana. And for some reason in our culture, we just haven't been educated about the vast differences between the two plants. The major difference between hemp and marijuana, of course, is the THC content in the two plants.
That's what makes you high, right? That's what gives you the buzz.
Right, of course. So obviously marijuana has more THC in it than hemp does. And hemp, the way that the 2018 Farm Bill defined it as an agricultural crop was that the plant has to have 0.3% THC in it or less. So when it comes to the genetics of the plant, because hemp has always been grown for different purposes than marijuana, the two plants do look different. They grow completely differently. Hemp grows more like bamboo. It looks more, grows taller than the marijuana plant does. Marijuana grows more like a bush. The leaves are wider than the hemp leaf. And, obviously they're also grown completely differently. Hemp is usually grown outside in a field, and marijuana is usually grown inside under very specific conditions.
So that regulation that stipulates the hemp plant cannot contain any more than basically 1/3% THC, 0.3% of THC. That means, no matter how much you smoke if you decided to roll up some hemp leaves or some hemp flower, dried, you couldn't get high no matter how much you smoked. Is that a fair statement?
Right, exactly. So if you decide to smoke some CBD flower or use some CBD oil, you'll get the benefits from CBD, but you will not get the high that you get from marijuana, simply because there's not enough THC content for it to have that effect on you.
Now, can hemp be grown and cultivated if one wanted to in a certain way so that it had greater levels of THC? Or is that just the way that plant is made? It just does not have the THC percentage in it?
That's a really good question. So typically hemp is bred to have different properties than marijuana. It's usually used for food purposes or for fiber for making clothing or rope or plastic out of. But you can crossbreed hemp and marijuana to change the THC content and the CBD content.
Now, you mentioned CBDs. We should talk about those. Those are the cannabinoids, right?
Right. So
explain what they are.
Yeah. So there's actually a bunch of different ones. CBD and THC are only two of them, and they interact with our body obviously in different ways. But CBD, through all these different scientific studies that have been going on throughout the years, we found that CBD has anti-seizure effects. It can help people with multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's. It can help people who have pain, severe pain, rheumatoid arthritis, people who have anxiety even, or PTSD. And we're also seeing research into treating substance abuse, such as opioid addiction and alcohol addiction. Right now, there's some leading studies going on right now to see that CBD can actually reduce dependence on drugs like that, as well as heroin and morphine.
Now, once upon a time, maybe 100 years ago, in their little black bag, doctors would come around and they would do house calls back then. They would carry hemp oil in their bags, right?
Well, they had way back when it was part of the medical community. Yeah, you could. That was right around the time when morphine was becoming more and more popular to use, because they were able to figure out the exact dosage for it. But yeah, doctors did use marijuana oil. At that point, we're not really quite sure what the content was in there, how much CBD versus how much THC was in the particular oil that they used. But yeah, it was used for pain management.
So let's talk about this farm bill. I mean, we'll get into some of the other miraculous qualities of hemp, and I'm reminded of that phone call I think you had with your aunt in Texas, who said it can do all these things. It must be a snake oil. It just sounds too good to be true. It sounds too good to be true, but as we'll discover, it is not. So finally, in December of 2018, I guess this was a bill originally sponsored in the Senate by Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, and we'll talk about why that's significant. But what was in this? This was part of a much larger farm bill. It was kind of an omnibus bill, and then there was a part of it that contained or that pertained to the hemp industry. Just talk to me what that bill actually says.
Sure. So just to give you a little bit of context about what the bill did, in the United States, we've had something known as the Industrial Hemp Pilot Program since the 2014 Farm Bill. And what that did was it allowed states to set up their own hemp farming programs. And usually what those farming programs did was to develop research with the hemp plant through an academic university. So they were studying how to grow it, the best conditions to grow it under, what it could be used for, and so on and so forth, simply because it hasn't been grown in the United States for so many years. And since then, farmers have been saying, look, we want to really take this the next step. We want to take this to a commercial level beyond what we can do inside our state. You know, we need this to be federally legal. And every year since that industrial hemp pilot program was first initiated in 2014, there's been legislation to pass something known as the Industrial Hemp Farming Act. And every year, Congress puts it together, and it never went anywhere. It died in a committee. It was referred to, the DEA or the FDA, and it just never progressed.
Because we should point out, the FDA and the DEA, it is their responsibility to classify something as a controlled substance or not. Right. And prior to this, hemp has been lumped in, if people can believe this. Again, it does not have really any psychoactive ingredients. It has been lumped in as a grade 1 controlled substance along with heroin. Right.
And it's fascinating that how that even occurred. But that was the whole point too of the book, is to kind of show people that it is in no way, shape, or form a drug whatsoever, and never has been. So once the 2018 Farm Bill came up for Mitch McConnell, like you said, what he did was he took the Industrial Hemp Farming Act and he put it into the Farm Bill. And when they passed the Farm Bill, and the Farm Bill includes all sorts of things for farmers, it handles everything from SNAP, which is our that's for lower income families, all the way to crop insurance. It's a behemoth bill.
Right.
And so he was able to insert this into the bill, and what that did was it completely legalized hemp. It took hemp out of the hands of the Justice Department and put it into the hands of the Department of Agriculture as a crop rather than an illegal substance.
Now,
so this is the first time. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, because marijuana was legalized not only for medicinal purposes, but also for recreational purposes. Let's say, for example, Oregon. And I think it was basically back in the 70s, it became, instead of time in prison, it became like a misdemeanor, like $100 fine. So what I'm wondering is were states prior to this Farm Bill in 2018, were there states that had legalized it? And so what is the difference here if a state, let's say, for example, Oregon, because they seem to be sort of ahead of the curve, or California or whomever, if they had decided to legalize industrial hemp without the feds saying so, could they have done that?
Yes. And there are states that have. New York State actually is one of the biggest supporters of the industry. They have all sorts of grant funding available to farmers, and that's something that they really want to see move ahead in upstate New York. The issue here, what really makes it different is because it's now federally legal, the farmers get access to all different services that were not available to them before, regardless if the state had legalized it. So in other words, let's say you're a hemp farmer and you want to have obviously a bank account, you want to have a credit card, you want to have a loan or apply for crop insurance. You could not do any of those things because hemp was still federally illegal. And all those services are run by federal organizations, the federal banks.
Right. Makes sense. And I'm guessing also, let's say you were able to grow hemp, and let's say there was a hemp rope manufacturer in the same state. You couldn't, I'm guessing you couldn't get an export license. You couldn't move it across state lines.
Right. And that's another thing too. I mean, it's crazy to think that there could be two states next to each other that both legalized it, and just depending on their laws, it might not be allowed over state lines. And now the federal government has okayed it, and you can cross state lines with it. Any part of the hemp plant can cross state lines now, which is pretty big because, even in some other industries with interstate commerce laws, that's not necessarily a thing. Like, for instance, wine manufacturers can't always import their wines into different states depending on interstate commerce laws.
Right. Jen Hobbs is with us, the author of American Hemp, How Growing Our Newest Cash Crop Can Improve Our Health, Clean Our Environment, and Slow Climate Change, with a foreword by none other than Jesse Ventura. How was it working with Jesse? Because you wrote the foreword for his marijuana manifesto.
Well, yeah, we actually co-wrote that together. We've been working together for, it's been over 10 years now. I did the publicity for his previous book tours, and he wanted to write a book about his views on marijuana. And he knew that I was, he knew my position on it, and that, my family was also at the time very much involved in it. My husband is a medical marijuana patient. We grew medical marijuana in California for a couple of years, and we teamed up together to write the book, and it was a great experience. He's a really great guy to work with.
Is he still down in Mexico?
He just came back, actually. He came back last week. He goes down there about 6 months out of the year and comes back up to Minnesota.
Excellent. All right. He comes up for some air. All right. Now, I want to get back to just, we're coming up on a break here, but we'll start this conversation now, and we can finish up on the other side. I wanted to get back to Mitch McConnell and why it's kind of significant that he would have been the one pushing this bill from Kentucky, and talk to me about what hemp can do for that state, which really its big cash crop taken away from it was tobacco.
Right. So, Kentucky was their biggest cash crop, and now that obviously the need and the want for tobacco obviously has gone down quite significantly now, and they replaced tobacco with soybeans as their leading crop in the state. But the industrial hemp pilot program in Kentucky has been increasing every year, and farmers can make leaps and bounds more with hemp, especially if it's being grown for CBD rather than soybeans. So for the state of Kentucky, especially since they have smaller farms than the national average, this is a really big deal for them because it'll really help small farmers.
We'll crunch some numbers when we come back. Jen Hobbs is with us. American hemp. Wait till you hear what hemp can be used for. Could it save America? Could it save Canada? We'll be back in a moment, right here on The Conspiracy Show. Don't go away.
Corporations, governments, and sometimes entire civilizations. What goes up must come down. And it lands on The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Right now, double up on deliciousness at Tim Hortons and get 2 classic breakfast sandwiches for just $5. Best of all, you can get them any time of day on our Breakfast Anytime menu. Get 2 classic breakfast sandwiches for $5 for a limited time at Tim's. Plus taxes and restrictions apply at participating restaurants for a limited time.
A king-size 4-poster bed for the most important hours of your life. A leather Ralph Lauren blazer blazingly attractive. A Mary Gregory hand-painted vase to remind you to stop and smell the roses. At Around the Block, Toronto's most fascinating consignment showroom near Leslie in the 401, discover more of life's treasures to help you treasure life more. Around the Block.
Janice Honeyman, Portfolio Manager at Mackey Research Capital.
Half the people listening right now don't have a comprehensive financial plan. And I ask what you're waiting for? To the other half that do, if your plan involves taking big risks, that's not investing, that's gambling. But if you want an achievable financial plan and someone to help you grow your portfolio at a decent clip while also protecting to the downside, then I would love to hear from you.
Retire without worry. Go to JaniceHoneyman.com.
Magic trick number 9. You know the cranks on your casement windows? The first thing that gets stuck or stripped or has to be replaced? Yeah, been there, done that. Well, Magic Windows just made them disappear. Now our patented Parallax hardware allows you to open or close it just like a door. No crank, no problems. And no other manufacturer in the world offers it. MagicWindow.ca. It's not really magic. It's just better, smarter thinking.
Time to replace your furnace? Enercare makes it easier. Up to a $1,100 discount plus $1,400 in rebates. Still available when you buy a new furnace. Because we Enercare. Visit Enercare.ca for details. Terms and conditions apply. From Yeti to Nessie, pyramids to pandemics, all is revealed on The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Hey, welcome back. And Jen Hobbs is with us for the full 2 hours. We will open up the phone lines at the top of the hour and take your questions and comments. So just sit back and listen to the conversation, and then we will open up those lines, and you can fire away, as I say, at the top of the hour. Now, Jen, American Hemp, the book, and the foreword by Jesse Ventura. We were talking about the state of Kentucky and how hemp really could absolutely transform lives, particularly, Kentucky farmers. And you mentioned, the tobacco industry, and, rightfully so, it's falling by the boards. But at one point, as you point out, 600,000 acres of tobacco were harvested in Kentucky. That's 100 years ago. 100 years later, less than 100,000 acres. And now soybeans have become the leading crop in the state. But the return on the investment is pretty poor. What do they get what does a farmer get for an acre of soy versus an acre of hemp?
Right. So an acre of soybeans is about $500. It yields about a $500 return. And if you're growing hemp for CBD, there's the potential to bring in as much as $30,000 per acre. So that seems to be, obviously it seems like a very optimistic figure, but it's actually a pretty conservative one right now. People can make pretty much $30,000 to $50,000 per acre. So
so 100 times
right.
per acre, up to $50,000 per acre. Now, this is before expenses, but still.
Right, of course.
As you point out, the majority of Kentucky farms are quite small. And so growing soy after expenses, a family there might be left with a pittance. Like, what's the average income for a farmer in Kentucky? You quote it in the book, and I don't expect you to remember that, but it's quite small.
Yes, yeah, it is. And the problem too is that these small farms they don't really get a lot of money from the USDA subsidies. A lot of that goes to the corporate farms, and the smaller farms, they're the ones that really need it. If you have a giant corporation, you're making a lot more money, obviously, and it's pretty odd the way that those are set up right now. So this is a way to kind of level that playing field and to help these people out, who are farming's just been a generational thing. These are people that have, ever since whoever was the first to move to Kentucky, they've pretty much been in the farming industry.
Right. And there's so many farms that are falling by the boards because they just can't make a go of it. These people don't take vacations. They just work and work and work, and at the end of the day, they're underwater. So imagine a cash crop that could deliver $50,000 per acre. That's a conservative estimate. This could save the family farm all over North America. Right.
Exactly. And another thing too that's really interesting about Kentucky is that they do a lot for veterans. They're really trying to get veterans involved in farming in general, and they have a program through their Department of Agriculture to help train and mentor veterans and to get them involved in farming. And there's a path for hemp in there as well.
Ah, okay. So I want to talk about why hemp was banned in the first place. First of all, when was it banned? Because we'll get into the history of hemp in the United States a little bit later, but when was it banned and why?
So it's really interesting how it all came about. In 1937, we had this legislation called the Marijuana Tax Act. And that was the first piece of legislation that really started to put hemp next to marijuana and to change people's perception of it. So, that particular piece of legislation was meant to put a drug I guess, start the whole drug classification of cannabis as a whole. So at the time, the United States didn't want to just outright ban something. So what they did was they were able to turn it over to the IRS, to the Department of the Treasury at the time, and they were able to come up with a tax for marijuana and lump in hemp in there as well. And what they did was, if you were a doctor, if you were a producer of marijuana, if you were a farmer of hemp, you had to pay additional taxes and report all of this to the Department of Narcotics. And it was just something that turned people off in general from being involved with the industry as a whole, because, this is also at a time when the economy was not that great, and it was just a risk that a lot of farmers didn't want to take, particularly with hemp.
So 1937, 80 years ago.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. So even though people at the time, obviously farmers knew the difference between marijuana and hemp, and you actually can't grow the two of them next to each other. The hemp plant, the way that cross-pollination works, it will take out the THC content in the marijuana plant.
That's interesting.
What they were able to do was they were able to say, look, the two look so similar. They have the same types of seeds. The leaves look the same. So, it's going to be so hard for us to tell them apart. And we're just going to, lump them together in this tax code. And the really ironic part about that is a couple years later, they needed hemp for World War II.
Sure,
so
the war effort, absolutely.
Yeah. So it was rebooted by the federal government through a campaign, and it was they allowed farmers to grow it again without paying the taxes associated with it. And the Department of Agriculture came out and explained how to grow it, helped people with loans, helped build the infrastructure for it. They built all these processing plants so that they can, make the ropes that they needed and the uniforms and, just about everything in between. And as soon as the war was over, it went right back to taxing it and making life even more difficult for these poor farmers.
I don't understand. Now, I mean, to de-incentivize or to tax it is one thing. But when did it become considered a class one, or whatever the term is, a class one drug up there with heroin? How did that happen?
So we talk about this in Jesse Ventura's Marijuana Manifesto. So what happened was when the DEA came to be a formal agency, they were tasked with coming up with the Controlled Substances Act with Congress. And what they decided was, what drugs go on that list. And they took the Marijuana Tax Act, which had cannabis listed, cannabis and all its derivatives. And they put that up there as a controlled substance, as a Schedule I narcotic, right up there with heroin. So, when that act was passed in the 1970s, that's when it was, formally, federally illegal, 100%, enemy number one in the United States.
I mean, there's a couple of ways of looking at that. One is they're just being awfully lazy, like, well, we can't be bothered to figure out the difference between cannabis or marijuana and hemp. They both look alike, which they don't. So there's that. They're lazy. Or two, maybe not terribly bright. I don't buy that. Lazy, yes. Or three, is there some, I mean, this is the conspiracy show, but I mean, I'm wondering, was the people that were the people that were manufacturing nylon rope, or the people that were manufacturing clothing out of cotton. In other words, was there a cotton lobby or a nylon rope lobby that was trying to get hemp out of the picture?
Definitely. So I don't know if you're familiar with William Randolph Hearst.
Oh,
he was
yes.
One of the, So he built
You
one
get
of
me the
largest...
pictures and I'll supply the war.
Yep. He built one of the largest newspaper chains in the country. And, he always viewed hemp as his biggest competition because he had his own source of lumber for paper. And he was able to lobby the people that were coming up and formulating the Marijuana Tax Act. Aside from him, there was also Andrew Mellon. He was the director of the Mellon Bank, and he was also the secretary of the U.S. Department of Treasury.
Jen, I'm going to jump in here. Excuse the interruption. We'll take a quick time out. We'll come back and we'll find out what Mr. Mellon had against hemp. Back on the other side, Jen Hobbs, American Hemp, right here on The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Syrett. Don't go away.
This is no place for the naive or the faint-hearted. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Come From Away is the joyous, foot-stomping, and heartwarming musical that has Toronto audiences cheering. It's a powerful celebration of humanity, cheers the Globe and Mail. Come From Away has become a genuine classic, raves the National Post. And Newsweek says, Come From Away takes you to a place you never want to leave. Come From Away, now playing at Toronto's Elgin Theatre. Get tickets at 416-872-1212 or mervish.com.
With spring sprung, summer's finally fast approaching.
And whether you're waiting for our temps to creep up to lake and pool-worthy numbers,
or you've got your own spring holiday planned to speed up summer's arrival,
we're ready for you and your family at Swimco.
With the latest trends and styles
for fabulous fit, form, and function. Women's, men's, kids,
swimwear, beachwear, and all the accessories you need to spring into summer.
No matter the adventure you've got planned,
now's the time to shop Swimco
and feel good half naked. Visit us at Square One, Lime Ridge Mall, or online at swimco.com.
Relief is out there if you know where to look. Directing your attention to well.ca/CARP. For a limited time, CARP members save 10% on specially selected products designed to keep you feeling your best. Browse well.ca/CARP for products to help you lose weight, support your prostate, or manage your menopause. CARP Picks. Order online, from home, and get 10% off. Conditions apply. Visit well.ca/CARP and have wellness delivered.
At Mandarin, we've been keeping our customers happy and smiling since 1979. Our award-winning all-you-can-eat buffet has been home to all your special moments. To thank you for 40 great years, we're celebrating with our biggest anniversary promotion ever. Pick up your contest passport and enter for your chance to win one of many great prizes. Details at mandarinrestaurant.com. Bring your family and friends and celebrate today.
A celebration of taste, Mandarin.
Where there's smoke, there's The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
Welcome back. And we are here with Jen Hobbs, the author of American Hemp, with a foreword by Jesse Ventura. We should point out the book launches, is it April 16th, Jen?
Yes, it is.
And then it'll be, I'm assuming, though, that pre-orders are available on Amazon?
Yes. Pre-orders are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, just about anywhere you can buy books right now, you can get pre-order. And I think Amazon and Barnes & Noble have 30% off right now for pre-orders. So that's for ebooks and Kindle and for the paperback.
Excellent. All right. Before the break, we were trying to figure out why hemp was banned back in 37. And you had mentioned that William Randolph Hearst saw the hemp industry, because they make paper out of hemp, just about, as we'll itemize later, just about everything you can imagine can be made out of this amazing plant. But Hearst had his own pulp paper industry, right. So he was supplying his own newspaper chain. And so he saw hemp as competition. And then you mentioned, is it Andrew Mellon?
Yes, it is. Yep. Andrew Mellon. So he
Right.
was the secretary of the Department of the Treasury. And he was also a private banker who was financing DuPont, which was a rising petrochemical and pulp paper company that's still in existence today. So obviously a commercial hemp industry they saw it as jeopardizing their lucrative chemical patents.
Right.
So Andrew Mellon actually, what he did was he took his son-in-law, Henry Anslinger, and he put him as the first commissioner of the Treasury Department's Federal Bureau of Narcotics. And that's now what is the DEA, right?
Right.
So he said, hey, you need to make some money for me. So, why else would the Federal Bureau of Narcotics be placed under the Treasury Department, right? If the United States can't turn a profit by taxing drugs.
Right.
So that's essentially what it was for. And now, obviously the DEA is under the Justice Department. But it's just so interesting that it was founded just to make money for the federal government. It was just there to, tax people and fine people and threaten people and, make marijuana was the first thing they went after, and hemp.
I wanted to just circle back to the claim that they couldn't tell the difference between hemp and a marijuana plant, and that's why they had to lump them together, lest some innocent hemp farmers got swept up in a marijuana raid. They didn't, they were concerned about the poor hemp farmer. That's why they banned it. Of course, sure, that's it. But you point out in American Hemp, if that were the case, well, I'll let you tell the story, but it has to do with China, because they grow hemp in China, but they have severe penalties for marijuana.
Right. And that's actually in the first chapter of the book. I go over the differences between marijuana and hemp. They are both cannabis, but, more and more we see the media referring to them as cousins because they are so different. And I go into some of the legal distinctions in other countries. And China is one of them. In China, it's, hemp's been grown there for, I think one of the first known pieces of writing talked about hemp farming in China. And, if you're caught with, obviously they export it. They're getting into CBD now. They've been exporting hemp seeds for years. But, if you're caught with too much marijuana, that's considered the death penalty over there. Yeah. So clearly there are two completely different legal structures in other countries. And they've been, it's really just mind-blowing that we weren't able to, like you said, either it's laziness or it's something else, But we've been going after both of them equally.
And before the 2018 Farm Bill, when it was illegal federally to grow, not only to grow hemp, but to manufacture any products made out of hemp, that shirt is made out of hemp, you're going to jail. Seriously. But there was a thriving hemp import business to the tune of what, $700 million or something in the United States? So you could import hemp products, right?
Right. And that's always been, another thing that farmers in the United States are like, what is going on here? Obviously, when Canada legalized hemp and started exporting hemp oil and hemp seed and food grade products, the United States said, okay, fine, we'll allow that. And then that's obviously when United States farmers turned around and said, okay, well, why can't we do that here? What's the big trouble,
Exactly. Here's that eerie music percolating up again, Jen, which means I have to interrupt you again, sadly, but we will get together again soon, I promise. On the other side, in fact, just moments away, more of my conversation with Jen Hobbs, author of American Hemp, with a foreword by Jesse Ventura. Where does that name sound familiar? Back with more. Stay with us.
Take a look around. What do you really see? This is where you can tell all about it. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett on Zoomer Radio.
What's the best way to take in a game at Fenway? The architecture in Chicago? History of Quebec City? Or the excitement of Foxwoods Casino? That's easy. Leave the driving to Great Canadian Holidays. A Big Blue Motor Coach is the fun and worry-free way to uncover Nashville, see the best of Newfoundland, or birdwatch the Blue Jays in Boston and New York. Sit back and relax on Great Canadian Holidays' new spring and summer getaways. Book now at greatcanadianholidays.com.
Did you hear? Listen Up Canada is changing its name to Hearing Life. The signs on the outside might be changing, but our staff, our dedication, and expertise remain the same on the inside. We are proudly serving over 200 communities across Canada with one simple vision: to help more people hear better. A free hearing test could be the difference between living and living out loud. Because at Hearing Life, your hearing is our expertise. Visit whoishearinglife.ca.
How free is free speech? What's our gut telling us about our health? And will cars ever fly? The smartest people on the planet bring new meaning to bright and early by inspiring us to think about something more substantial than what's for breakfast. Wake up to inspiration. Start your weekends with Idea City on the air. Hear talks from Moses Neimer's conference that always brings you the biggest ideas first. Now first thing in the morning, every Saturday and Sunday at 6:30. Idea City on the air is on Zoomer Radio.
If you're paying any attention at all, the moves in the stock market should be telling you something. What if we have another big correction? Online Trading Academy can teach you how to create additional income and how to save for your retirement. Attend a free half-day class and learn how you can make money in any market condition. Call 888-670-TRADE, 888-670-TRADE, or torontoclass.com. 888-670-TRADE, or torontoclass.com.
Keeping a watchful eye on the New World Order. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio, AM 740.
Welcome back, and we are approaching top of the hour. We will open the phone lines, questions and comments for Jen Hobbs, author of American Hemp, How Growing Our Newest Cash Crop Can Improve Our Health, Clean Our Environment, and Slow Climate Change. Again, with a foreword by Jesse Ventura. Now, the other thing that befuddles me is why we have a number of states that have legalized medical marijuana. Some have basically, they have legalized recreational marijuana, And yet they did that before hemp was even legalized. One would think, governments tend to be very conservative. I'm talking small c conservative. They move slowly, in other words, and cautiously. You would think if they were going to legalize anything first, it would be the plant that is not a drug. And yet that's not what happened. Why?
Right. It's, again, something that just defies logic to me. Colorado is actually the only state that went ahead and did both at the same time. Other than that, you're right. Everyone, all the states have chosen to differentiate it, which technically, yes, they are completely different. But they go ahead and legalize, what is considered either they do it as a recreational drug or a medical drug, rather than what is now defined as an agricultural crop and a commodity in the United States. So it is very strange. I agree with you 100% that they're both put up there as a Schedule I narcotic. So you would think that would be the greatest way to do it. You treat these two things exactly the same. All right, well, we're legalizing one, so why don't we just legalize the other one at the same time? And like I said, the only state that's actually done that simultaneously is Colorado.
Well, who ever said that governments and common sense have anything in common? But I'm wondering, we hear these horror stories, and they're true, about people that are rotting away in some prison. I was going to pick on, I love Texas, but I was going to say in some Texas prison, but, and I'm sure there are, for, possession of some marijuana seeds. This was the $1 trillion war on drugs that has filled the prisons with nonviolent drug offenders. I'm wondering, is there someone out there in jail given some ridiculous sentence for producing hemp or growing hemp? Do we know of?
I don't know anyone in particular. And I think, there are people that are having some issues. There's some farms that I mentioned in the book that the DEA has gotten involved with. And I mean, at this point, all the cases are dropped because it's now federally legal. But there were some cases where a farm wanted to, they couldn't get the seeds. So they got it from another state and the seeds crossed state lines. And, the DEA was ready ready to bring the law down on these people for just trying, they have all their permits. Everything was, approved by the state that they were in for the industrial hemp program. And instead of importing the seeds, they tried to get it across state lines and they got in trouble for it.
I mean, during the break, I was enjoying a little sesame seed snack. I'll hold that up for the webcam. Not that I'm going to get a sponsor out of it, but anyway. And imagine, hemp seeds. You can snack on hemp seeds. Imagine, being busted for and getting caught with a sesame seed snack in your hip pocket. That's what we're basically talking about here, folks, except you can't make clothes and rope and use sesame seeds for fuel, as far as I know. You mentioned Canada, and I just wanted to clarify because I'm not even 100% certain about this. Since we legalized recreational and medical marijuana, I still think you need to apply for an industrialized hemp license. I don't think anybody can grow hemp. You still have to jump through some hoops. There are still some regulations in Canada. So we do have a small hemp industry with the potential for it to grow bigger. But quite frankly, I mean, why are there any regulations?
Right. And that's also something, too, that I think a lot of the articles about the Farm Bill kind of overlook is that, yes, they legalized it, but with stipulations. So you're still not you're never going to be in a situation where you can just go to Home Depot and you can just pick out some hemp seed and grow it in your backyard and take out toxins from your soil. Right now in this day and age, that's not a possibility. You have to apply for a permit. It costs money. It depends on, what state you're in, how much money it costs. You have to go through all these different, different regulations, the different processes. It's per state. So when the federal government said, yes, we're taking hemp off of the narcotics list, what they did was they threw it back to the states and said, okay, you guys decide what it is that you want in your state and how you want to regulate it. So one of the things that farmers are going to be subject to is they're going to have to test it. They're going to have to test to make sure that the THC is below 0.3%, which is something I believe you guys do in Canada as well.
Right. And of course it will be because that's just the way the plant is, right?
Right. I mean, it varies per plant. I mean, that you're not going to get that 0.3% on each and every plant. So there can be some times where there's one plant that has a little bit more THC content in it than another plant, but they're going to be low. And one of the other reasons why too, is because, one of the things law enforcement always says is, well, what if someone starts growing marijuana in the middle of their, hemp field? How are we going to know? And that's not even a possibility because the way that the cross-pollination works, it takes the THC out of the marijuana plant. It makes it virtually useless for that purpose, for getting high.
Right.
So one of the problems that we're actually seeing, especially in California, for instance, California is very slow to legalize hemp in general. Actually, there's some counties, Sonoma County actually in particular, just passed an ordinance to say that they're not going to allow hemp to grow there until they're going to review it in 2020. And part of that is because, marijuana in a lot of these counties is a huge economic driver. It's legalized recreational, and these marijuana farmers are saying, well, that's all fine and good for hemp, but that can potentially ruin my business. And I'm not going to know until it's too late because you can't reverse that once that happens.
Interesting. There's another provision in this farm bill that's kind of odd, and that is you can't grow hemp if you have a drug conviction. I think the time limit is 10 years from the conviction. You can murder somebody and grow hemp, but you can't have been arrested for possession of marijuana, for example.
Right. It's crazy. So it's only for drug-related felonies. So it's exactly what you said. It's, is it legal or is it not legal? Is it a drug or is it not a drug? If you're going to say it's an agricultural crop, why can't everyone grow it? Why does that even have to be there? And 10 years after your conviction date? At what point? It's like, they already did the time, whatever it was.
Right. And what does one have to do with the other?
Still their lives.
Exactly.
Right.
Listen,
right, exactly.
we're coming up at the top of the hour here. We'll continue on, open up the phone lines, and we'll go through all of the many, many benefits of hemp, from the environment to health to fuel to shelter and so on and so on. It goes. American Hemp with Jen Hobbs stays with us right here on The Conspiracy Show. Phone calls are next. Stay with us.
This is Zoomer Radio Toronto. CFZM FM and CFZM AM. Owned and operated by MZ Media Incorporated.
Toronto, Canada, Earth. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett on Zoomer Radio.
All right, I was just pouring myself a cup of tea. I've been watching too much Call the Midwife. Now I'll have a cuppa. Thanks for inviting me into your home, long-haul truck, RV, camper, taxi, your parents' basement, your loft, that greasy spoon just off the interstate, and your cabin in the woods. And I am coming to you live from my little studio beneath the stairs, just north of Toronto. Hello to everyone listening in on our flagship station, AM 740, 96.7 FM, Zoomer Radio. Heard from Maine to Minnesota and south to the Carolinas. And how do to all of those of you hearing us on one of our affiliate stations across North America. Those listening on the Zoomer Radio and Conspiracy Show apps. Those of you streaming us online at zoomerradio.ca. And those listening and watching on our YouTube channel, Strange Planet. And finally, those joining us in the live YouTube chat. However, and wherever you're listening, I bid thee the warmest of welcomes, and I thank you for your fine company. Jen Hobbs is with us, the author of American Hemp. She's been a publicity consultant for the greater part of her career. She's worked behind the scenes with Jesse Ventura since 2007 and shares his enthusiasm for searching for the truth no matter where it leads. In 2016, she co-authored Jesse Ventura's Marijuana Manifesto, which inspired this book, American Hemp, How Growing Our Newest Cash Crop Can Improve Our Health, Clean Our Environment, and Slow Climate Change. Now, we are going to open up the phone lines this hour. Questions and comments for Jen Hobbs, 416-360-0740 in the Greater Toronto Area, 416-360-0740. And toll free from just about anywhere, 1-866-740-4740, 1-866-740-4740. Just a reminder, hey, have you checked out my podcast, Conspiracy Unlimited yet? Brand new episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And to listen and subscribe, it's real simple. Just go to conspiracyunlimitedpodcast.com. All right, back to our conversation about this miraculous plant, hemp. Let's talk a little bit about the history of hemp. Prior to it being banned in 1937, I mean, people that are hemp enthusiasts are fond of talking about George Washington and how enamored he was of hemp. Talk to me about George Washington and hemp.
Sure. So he grew it. All of our founding fathers, were in some way, shape, or form grew it or were associated with it. The 13 colonies were really founded on hemp. It was an economic backbone at the time because, the British needed it for their navy. They needed it for sails and for rope and for uniforms. And one of the reasons why they started colonizing all these different areas of the world is because they were looking for more land so they can grow hemp and not have to pay for it. Obviously with how countries were at the time, between relations between England and France or England and Russia, if you got into war with a country where your supply chain came from for hemp, that could be a big problem. So, the 13 colonies, you could pay your taxes in hemp. George Washington grew it. He had 5 different farms. He grew it at all of his farms, and he wrote about it in his journals. Just to keep track of when he would harvest it from year to year. We have all of this information, dating back to before the United States was even founded about how valuable it was to our country.
Now, I don't know about the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence, but a number of important historical documents are written on parchment made from hemp, right?
Yes, absolutely. So it's just been a part of our country, since literally its foundation. It's built on hemp.
All right, so let's talk finally about some of the miraculous qualities of this plant. First of all, let's talk about hemp nutrition, and it is considered a superfood. Why?
Yes, it definitely is. So hemp is, when you get the seeds, they're filled with all sorts of different vitamins and nutrients. They have it has vitamin E in it, iron, copper, magnesium, zinc, potassium, and protein. Hemp protein is actually considered a complete protein because it offers every single amino acid the human body needs to survive. So if you're looking for, for instance, my daughter, she's not really big on eating meat. So what I do to make sure that she's getting enough protein and enough vitamins and nutrients, I actually, I'll make her hemp smoothies, and it really doesn't take that much to get the right nutritional value. So, we'll take a bunch of fruit and put it in there, and then you only need about 3 tablespoons of hemp to get the same nutritional value as you would in a meal. It also has omega-3, it has omega-6. It just has so many different amazing things that our bodies, rely upon.
And what part of the hemp plant is edible?
So, some people actually eat the leaves. That's becoming kind of, I don't know if it's going to be a fad or not, but there are some farms that are offering edible hemp leaf salad mixes. So you might see that now that hemp has been legalized. You might see that in the grocery store at some point. But typically, what people do is they take the seeds and they make all different things out of it. You can make you can make hemp milk. You can make hemp pasta. You can make a hemp oil that's similar to like a sunflower oil or olive oil for cooking. And, they all have those vitamins and nutrients in it. So, you can make hemp butter even.
My word. Hemp milk and hemp butter. Have you tried the hemp milk?
I have. It's not too difficult to make it. We actually have a recipe for it in Jesse Ventura's Marijuana Manifesto. We have a cooking with cannabis chapter, and we included some recipes in there. And the hemp milk is one of them, as well as a hemp sorbet.
A hemp sorbet, I love it.
Yeah, it's you can really put it in anything,
Now, you mentioned that in the 2014 Farm Bill, they passed kind of a research. It was the research phase of hemp. During that time, were there any sort of peer-reviewed scientific studies on the nutritional benefits of hemp, the ones that you've just cited?
Well, we do have a lot of. I do list a lot of different studies in the book. The hemp pilot program mostly focused on other aspects of it, but I do list a whole bunch of studies, including studies that include livestock. So what we found is researchers found was when different, like for instance, if a hen ate a meal for several weeks consistent with hemp, their egg content, the omega-3 content in their egg yolks would actually increase. So that's really interesting to see how even if, we fed it to our livestock and would become healthier, meaning that the eggs that we would buy in the store would be even, more nutritious for us. And then there are a lot of different studies focusing on the different ways that hemp can help just balance your diet, we know it has all of these great nutritional content. It has great nutritional content in there. So, for instance, the protein, this specific type of protein that's in hemp, it's known to help lower the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes. It helps the fiber in hemp actually helps to regulate blood glucose. And it also, if you just take one serving of the hemp protein, it satisfies 50% of our daily recommended fiber serving.
My
and
word.
Fiber is
My word.
really.
And you write in the book that it's even better than taking a lot of vitamin supplements. Explain.
Yes. So one thing that I did in the book is, some people might not know anything about hemp. Other people might know just about everything you can think of about hemp. So I try to weave in some more, comparisons between, okay, so yeah, I get all of this from my vitamin supplement. I don't need hemp. Well, maybe you do, because there have actually been a lot of studies that show the multivitamin industry, including vitamin industry, isn't all it's cracked up to be. This is the National Institute of Health has spent over $2.4 billion studying the effects of vitamins and supplements. And what they reported was that they don't have any real benefit, which is crazy because it's such a big part of our culture. And, that what they found was that you can just eat healthy foods, get a healthy diet, and that does much better for you than a multivitamin ever could, because a lot of these multivitamins, they don't have, it just doesn't work the way that they're advertised to work.
Right. Here's my concern, and then I'm going to take a call. That once it becomes sort of federally approved and it's grown, and then big farms will start growing it, big industrial farms, and then they'll genetically modify it, and we'll have GMO hemp. What do you think? Are you concerned about that, Jen?
I mean, anything's a possibility. I would hate to see something like that happen because, obviously kind of takes out all of the all of the benefits of the plant. But right now, we're actually in an interesting situation because there aren't even any pesticides approved by the federal government for hemp. Right now, it's being grown pretty much organically. For the states that have industrial hemp pilot programs and the parameters that they put in place for pesticide use, they're all what are known as biopesticides. So natural substances are put on hemp if you need it to help it to either help with weed control or insects or something of that nature. But the plant itself just grows without any problems. It doesn't need a lot of irrigation, and one of the reasons that GMO plants came to be was to help the plants grow better and stronger, supposedly,
and to absorb the Roundup weed herbicide.
Right, exactly. And hemp doesn't need really any help to grow either. It's just the crop it's called a weed for a reason.
Oh my Lord. All right, let's say hi to Joe Joe is checking in from Philadelphia. Joe, good evening, good morning, and welcome to the Conspiracy Show.
Yeah, good morning. I want to know, is it any good for glaucoma, and does it have a negative effect on your brain?
What was the first part of the question, Joe?
Is it good for glaucoma, and does it have a negative effect on your brain?
Good questions. So could you smoke it? Can it help glaucoma?
So if you're going with the CBD flower, it won't give you that high feeling. It doesn't have enough THC in it to do that. So if you're looking to take it for a medical purpose, you're not going to get the same effects as if you're taking marijuana. You can smoke it and you're not going to feel any effect like you do with marijuana. But what it does is it usually alleviates the problem. So I haven't seen very many studies that focus on CBD specifically for glaucoma. But what the CBD does is it interacts with our endocannabinoid system, and that's why it's able to work with so many different parts of our body, and really kind of even us out and create homeostasis in our body.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. That's the other part that knocks me out, that we have an endocannabinoid system. In other words, we have evolved so that our cells have cannabinoid receptors, right?
Right, exactly. It's really wild that our body is it's supposed to react. And it's almost like this plant is there specifically to help us, and naturally. It's like we try and reinvent the wheel. We try and come up with all these different pharmaceutical drugs to help this, that, and the other thing, and they have all these side effects. And meanwhile, CBD doesn't have any side effects.
Now, they have found that people that have stress and anxiety, even depression, they can have benefit from the CBD without the THC. So doesn't that suggest that it is somewhat psychoactive? If it can alleviate depression, it's doing something in the brain. So that would suggest it is somewhat psychoactive, right?
So what the endocannabinoid system, it's that particular system in our bodies, it's involved with our cognitive functions, our mood. So yes, definitely. It's like the way that it works with our receptor, when it bonds to our receptor, it kind of like, I guess you could say, fixes the abnormality or helps in that way. But yeah, there's definitely been studies that show that it helps even people that are, extremely, they suffer from social anxiety, they've done a study to see how they feel giving a presentation in front of a large group. And those that took the CBD felt much more confident and were able to give the speech versus those that didn't. So, it's really fascinating the way that it works. And you don't get that, I don't know how else to describe it, the high feeling, the euphoric feeling that you do from marijuana.
Right. And CBDs, is it taken as an oil? Is it taken as a powder? Do you sprinkle it on your cornflakes? How do you do it?
Well, a lot of people take CBD oil. It's definitely an easy way to administer it. It's usually just a couple of drops, and people use it for epilepsy, and like just so many different uses. You can also smoke it now that CBD flower is legal. That's another option as well. But those are usually the two main ways that people take it.
All right, let's grab another call. Bill is checking in from Oshawa, the Motor City, north of the border. Oshawa. Hey, Bill, welcome to the Conspiracy Show. How are you?
I'm very well, Richard. Good morning to you and to your guest.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a question for you, Richard, as well as to your guest. First, Richard, what is the status of hemp production for farmers here in Canada, given the recent passage of both Bill C-75 and 76? Is it a controlled substance, or is it freely grown?
Well, my understanding, and Jen, you can add to this if you can, but my understanding is, even though marijuana is now legal, hemp is still somewhat more regulated in that you can grow it, but you have to apply for an industrial license, an industrial hemp license, and I'm not sure what that entails, what the regulations are, but not anyone can grow it. But that's also the situation down in the United States, where they've just passed this farm bill legalizing hemp. As Jen Hobbs pointed out, you can't go to the Home Depot and buy yourself a sack of hemp seeds and start, put yourself in business. There are still some hoops to go through, but it is legal, but you have to have a license.
Right, right.
Richard, may I ask, is hemp seed more easily digestible if it's ground up as opposed to having the seed whole when you're baking items?
Well, they do actually make a hemp flour for baking. Not like a CBD flour, a hemp flour. It doesn't have CBD in it. It's like a ground up version, pretty much what you're describing of hemp seed. So that does exist for baking purposes. And they also have hemp protein, and that's it's a very fine, almost like a flour substance as well for protein shakes and that sort of thing. So there's a bunch of different options, especially now that it's more and more accepted in the health food aisle. If you go to your local grocery store, you should probably see a couple different varieties of it there.
Thanks for the call, Bill. So even parts of the plant or products from the plant that don't contain CBD, do they still have medicinal qualities, or is it simply nutritional, minus the CBD?
Right. So when you don't have CBD, it's looked at as a purely nutritional substance. So actually, the plants, there's a couple different varieties of hemp. So depending on what you're growing it for, if you're growing it for food, if you're growing it for fiber, for making plastic or clothing or paper or any other industrial purpose, or if you're growing it specifically for CBD, you're going to use a different variety for that purpose. So if you're a farmer and you're doing it for nutritional value, you're not going to turn around and use that same strain for CBD.
Got it. All right. Another quick timeout. Come back. And more questions and comments for Jen Hobbs, American Hemp, right here on The Conspiracy Show.
Loose lips sink ships, and sometimes corporations. Got something to say? Call Richard Syrett now at 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740.
At Infinity Downtown, we make it easy to get into a great new vehicle. This is General Manager at Infinity Downtown, and we make it easy to test drive. We'll come to you with the Infinity you want, right to your Toronto home or office, and easy to own. For service, we'll pick up your car, service, wash, and return it right to your Toronto home or office. See infinitydowntown.ca for details, or email us at concierge@infinitydowntown.ca. Part of the Downtown Auto Group. You are what drives us.
Relief is out there, if you know where to look. Directing your attention to well.ca/carp. For a limited time, CARP members save 10% on specially selected products designed to keep you feeling your best. Browse well.ca/carp for products to help you regrow hair, support memory, and even get a good night's sleep. CARP Picks. Order online, from home, and get 10% off. Conditions apply. Visit well.ca/carp and have wellness delivered.
Another reno story from Royal Home Improvements. We're taking back the basement, and that's final.
But Mom!
No buts. I've been waiting 30 years for a home office.
And a wine cellar. Apologize to your mother.
Sorry.
We're doing this for us because you don't live here anymore.
Your father's right. Now go home and let us build our guest suite.
We're planning our own sleepover.
Your basement can be whatever you want it to be, and Royal Home Improvements can help you transform it. More than just bathrooms, more than just kitchens, Royal Home Improvements is your we handle everything renovator. Why hire different companies for different jobs? Use Royal Home Improvements to renovate every room for consistency and style. And for seniors, you never pay tax.
I'm Paul Napolitano of Royal Home Improvements. It's our 50th anniversary. Contact us for a free estimate, and you'll get our 50 years of renovation experience.
numbers, passcodes, social insurance numbers. If they make you wonder how private they are, here's two more numbers. 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740.
Welcome back. We're here with Jen Hobbs, author of American Hemp, with a foreword by Jesse Ventura. The book will be available. Well, it'll launch on April the 16th, so just about a week away. However, Amazon is accepting pre-orders, and I think there are some discounts there on the pre-order, including the Kindle version. So much to discuss here, so many aspects of this miraculous plant, and we have people waiting on the phones to talk to as well. But I just wanted to finish up with sort of the medicinal qualities of hemp, and then talk about the environment as well. Wait till you hear what they're doing in Chernobyl with hemp. But can the oil be used as a topical, and if so, what is it good for?
Yes, CBD oil can be used as a topical medication as well. That's something that people can use for sore muscles. For if you have arthritis, some people can use it for that. And I've seen it put into bath bombs and other bath products. It's very versatile. It just depends on, how much of it you need for your specific condition. So that might be a little trial and error as far as, if the content is going to be enough for your symptoms.
And is it still awaiting FDA approval in order for a package of hemp oil to say hemp oil can alleviate this, or it can help with this, or it can prevent this, or it can cure this?
Yes, exactly. So we, it's so funny in the United States, we just can't do anything straightforward. Right now with CBD from hemp, it's in a little bit of a limbo. States had the right to legalize marijuana and legalize hemp as they saw fit. So what we see now is there are states that have CBD extract from marijuana, and that's legal in the particular state, and it's regulated by the state, but it is not regulated by the federal government because marijuana is illegal, so the feds don't have any parameters for an illegal substance. Now that hemp has been legalized federally, the FDA has to come up with what their guidelines are for CBD. And, they're really kind of dragging their feet on that. There's they're doing a meeting in May. It was supposed to be this month. But they're supposedly trying to come up with they're referring to it as pathways to CBD being legal. So, right now it's infused in drinks. It's, like I said, it's in lotions and bath bombs and all sorts of things. You can buy it online. And as you just can't say on there that it is a medication. That's really
right.
What the FDA has a problem with, because if you say something is a medication, it has to go through certain standards, and you have to prove it. And usually that would mean that the FDA would have to approve it, and it would become a drug through that process.
All right, let's say hi to Barbara, who's calling from Toronto. Barbara, good morning. Welcome to The Conspiracy Show. You are on the line with Jen Hobbs. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm speaking of, I had no idea about hemp. It's really all new to me, hearing all this tonight. But what I was saying earlier was, as a child in the UK, I understood that socks were made of hemp. And at one point in night, we had what we called mill rope, and that was supposed to be hemp.
Oh, yes.
And it just didn't blow a flame or anything. We just held it towards the firecracker and lit it. I never knew there was so much to do with hemp.
Well, it's Back to the Future, isn't it, Jen?
Wow. I'm sitting here totally amazed. Totally. And what can I get more information? Because I cannot remember everything which has been said tonight.
That's
Jen,
okay.
our website, there's a newsletter. There's a hemp newsletter coming out soon, I understand.
Oh, is it? I got a pencil.
Yeah, so I just started one up. It's called AmericanHemp.substack.com, and it's a free newsletter, e-newsletter. You can sign up for it, and what the goal is there is, as even obviously more and more information is going to come out now that the book is published. So the point of that is to, keep making sure that everything's accurate and that people that are interested in it are up to date. So it's going to be on AmericanHemp.substack.com.
Okay. One thing which really pricked up my ears was when you mentioned arthritis. And, I thought of lots of people I see that have it, and in the past 30, 40 years, I don't seem to have gotten any further with it. Not very much further, I should say.
Yeah. It's CBD is an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So people take it for arthritis.
So can they get that information from the doctor regarding that?
Yeah, I have more information about it in the book, and the CBD oil it would be useful for that. It just depends again on what the severity is.
Yeah.
Barbara, thank you so much, and good luck with that. And let's so American Hemp, AmericanHemp.com / what was it? Substack?
So it's AmericanHemp.substack.com.
Oh, .substack. What is the Substack.com?
It's a hosting. It's a website that e-blogs and newsletters. Yeah.
Okay, so S-U-B as in submarine, and stock or Substack, S-T-A-C-K.
Yep, that's right.
AmericanHempSubstack.com, and you can go there and you can and you can subscribe, and it's a free newsletter. Yes.
I'm going to be sending out updated information probably on a couple times a week, just as more and more information comes out. Because obviously, the timing of the book is great for people that don't know very much about hemp and its abilities, but there's just so much more information that's developing now that it is legal, and I just wanted to continue that conversation.
Well, you see, we had Barbara, perfect example. We have an older generation, and let's face it, for them, they're dying for some relief, and yet when it comes to the medical marijuana, there's a stigma attached there because they think, well, I don't want to get high.
Right. And I completely understand. It's something that can really that feeling high can really kind of debilitate your day. You can feel relief, but you might not be able to do very much else. So that's where the CBD is really. I think, from a personal standpoint, I prefer it over marijuana for that very reason, and I think a lot of people would. It's something that can help with so many different issues.
Right. Let's say hi to Kyle from my hometown, Brantford, Ontario. Hey, Kyle, welcome to The Conspiracy Show.
Hello, how are you?
Well, thank you.
My question actually is for Jen. Basically, I have a neurological problem called trigeminal neuralgia. It affects the right side of my face. One of the first line drugs for treatment is gabapentin, which is an anti-seizure drug. So when I was listening to the show and you were saying that the oil from the hemp plant actually helps with epileptics, I was thinking, would this have the same effect for not only for pain management, but for also just to keep it the nerve in check type thing?
It's possible. I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't seen any specific studies for that particular condition, but it's certainly possible. If I don't know if you've heard of the drug Epidiolex, but that recently got FDA approval, and it's a combination of a low dosage of THC and a higher dosage of CBD, and it's specifically for very rare seizure and epilepsy conditions. They literally just approved that, and it's the first prescription drug on the market that has CBD in it.
Well, thank you for for the information. I appreciate it.
All right, Kyle. Maybe you want to sign up for that newsletter, American Hemp Substack.com. It's a free newsletter.
It's AmericanHemp.substack.com.
My apologies. Okay, we'll make sure I get that right. AmericanHemp.substack.com. We'll give that out again before we dim the lights here. All right, Jen Hobbs stays with us. American Hemp, more on the other side. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett. Back with more in a moment.
Fasten your seatbelt and put your tray in the upright position. You're about to leave everything you know behind on The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
I'm Marilyn Weston, and I give it to you straight from a woman's perspective here on Zoomer Radio every Saturday morning at 8. This Saturday, my team will share their knowledge and passions and happy stories so you can learn what works best for you and make informed decisions and take action with no regrets. So plan to tune in and join me, Marilyn Weston, and my team and get it straight from a woman's perspective this Saturday morning at 8 exclusively here on Zoomer Radio.
Hi, I'm Cherry Tab, co-founder of the Herzig Eye Institute. Are you frustrated by your vision? Let us help you. Our surgeons are experts in 14 different vision correction procedures. I'm particularly excited about next generation vision correction known as SMILE. Super advanced new technology, remarkable results, all explained for you on our website. Google high definition vision. Learn about Herzig. Call us for a consultation. There's no charge. Look after yourself. Promise me.
Here come Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Friday and Saturday, May 10th and 11th, Casino Rama Resort. 19 top 10 hits with Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.ca. Must be 19 years or older. Don't miss Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Casino Rama Resort. Explore the great indoors.
If you've never been spoiled while appliance shopping, then you've never been to a Tasco. Our customers get spoiled in all the right ways. Spoiled with expert advice, spoiled with valuable offers, and best of all, spoiled for choice. Tasco has an appliance selection wide enough to please the most discerning shoppers. Drop by and we'll even spoil you with an espresso. Give us a look at tascoappliance.ca, then visit a showroom to get spoiled.
Different views make great conversation. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett on Zoomer Radio. To speak with Richard live, call 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740.
Welcome back. And Jen Hobbs stays with us, the author of American Hemp. Do you get that a lot, Jen Hemp? Maybe that's your superhero name, Jen Hemp. Um, yes. And let me give out that website again because I booted it a couple of times and I want to make sure people have it. This is where you can subscribe to the newsletter, which is coming out. It's AmericanHemp.substack.com. AmericanHemp.sub S-U-B as in submarine S-U-B stack STACK.com. How did I do?
Perfect.
All right. Now, before we have a mystery caller we're going to get to in a moment here from North Carolina who wants to remain anonymous. But I wanted to talk about hemp. You had mentioned that by growing hemp, you can improve the soil. It can actually like suck the lead right out of the soil. Is that right?
Right. Exactly. It's a process known as photoremediation. And in like you were saying earlier about Chernobyl, when that blast happened, there were some research teams that took hemp over there, and they wanted to see what would happen because they knew that hemp had this ability to absorb toxins from the soil, and they found that it was actually able to remove radiation as well. So it takes out heavy metals like lead and whole variety of different types of industrial toxins that are just, they're everywhere now in our soil. I feel like there's
in
so
our
many
water, in our air.
Look out! Oh yeah.
So if you grow hemp and it takes the impurities out of the soil, including radioactivity. Would the hemp plant then be radioactive? I mean, you couldn't then consume it, could you?
Right, exactly. It's not. You can't use it for. You can't eat it. There are some ways that researchers have found to kind of dispose of it and its body mass, because hemp isn't the only plant that has this ability, but because of its root system, it has its roots can go down to 8 feet underground, so it can really take out a lot of contamination. So it's been one of the more one of the plants that have been studied more in comparison to some other ones. But yeah, there are some different ways to dispose of it. And from what I understand, there's ways to separate those contaminants out and then use the biomass or the remainder of the plant for other purposes, such as biofuel.
Wow. Well, let's talk about biofuel. We'll do that in a moment. Let's say hi to our mystery caller from the great state of North Carolina who wishes to remain anonymous. So, Anonymous from North Carolina, you're on the air with Jen Hobbs. Go ahead.
Thank you, Rich. What was the name of that oil that you use for arthritis?
It would be CBD oil.
What kind?
You can actually, it's called CBD oil.
BVD?
Find it.
No, C as in Carolina, B as in Bob, D as in Detroit. CBD oil.
Oil. I got osteoarthritis, so I want to get that in first. Okay, I've been smoking for 50-some years now. I enjoy it. My eye doctor says that it doesn't help glaucoma anymore.
So you're smoking marijuana, but it's not helping your glaucoma?
Yeah. I went to him years ago and I told him I was going to do it because it helped. I had a little touch of glaucoma. He said it doesn't work anymore.
Is that true, Jen? What are you hearing?
My doctor.
Okay, let's hear from Jen.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, from what I understand, it's I mean, it does help glaucoma, and CBD has been known to help it as well. I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, so it's kind of hard for me to know, your particular condition. But there's been a lot of studies that have been done over the years specifically about glaucoma and how cannabis can help it. But I mentioned actually in Jesse Ventura's Marijuana Manifesto, we talk about that a great deal because there was someone that had glaucoma and fought the federal government to get access to marijuana specifically for it, and was able to win that case because it was a very rare condition, the type of glaucoma that he had.
I just passed it all because I saw him in 2006, and I just saw him 3 weeks ago for the first time since 2006, and my eyes haven't been bothering me at all. Like
so you feel it? So you feel it has been working for you then?
Oh, it must have, so because he said it was about the same. The discoloration in my eyes were about the same as it was 12 years ago, or ever how long, 2006. But I also like to ask you, do you think that people who smoke, it should have an age limit on it? I mean, I didn't start smoking until I was 23.
Mm-hmm.
But I have found that kids that smoke it now, they get distracted, they get slack, they just don't want to do anything.
Right. Well, scientifically, I know that your brain is it's still developing through your 20s. I think it's up to 25. Your brain is still developing. But I know also from a medical standpoint, I mean, there are kids that use it, that have to use it pretty much for the type of rare seizure conditions that they have. Charlotte Figge was probably one of the youngest to, that's where the Charlotte's Web strain comes from. It's actually a mix of hemp and marijuana to make the particular oil that helps her particular condition, and so many other people that have it. And I can't remember how young she was, but at the time she was the youngest medical marijuana patient.
Right, she was just having
Colorado.
seizures, constant seizures, dozens and dozens a day. Listen, we got to take a quick time out. Anonymous from North Carolina, thank you for the call. Jen, you stay put. We'll get to more of your comments and questions right after this on The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Syrett.
Curiosity, or did the devil make you do it? Whatever the reason, welcome back to The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio. To talk to Richard, call 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740. Previously on Dave's Corner Garage.
Unbelievable. I mean, some of these potholes are so big. How big are they? I saw a guy back a boat up.
Yeah, I saw one last week. It was marked deep end and shallow end, actually.
They're here every Saturday. Be sure and try the veal. On the next Dave's Corner Garage, bust out of your lease with help from Jim Matthews of Lease Busters, our in-studio guest this Saturday morning at 10 on Zoomer Radio and online at davescornergarage.com.
I see 80 on the horizon, and I don't give it. I'm going to work forever.
That's how one Zoomer magazine reader describes life: empowered. And with every issue, Zoomer celebrates that life, like the May issue with Hazel McCallion on the cover, on newsstands now. 80 on the horizon? How about being the mayor of Mississauga at 93 and still going strong today at age 98? Canada's oldest cover girl, only in Zoomer magazine. Life empowered.
I guess the thing is, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?
As you get older, does anyone ask you what you want to be anymore? Have you thought about what your future holds? Is it filled with excitement and wonder? Is it quiet and dignified? Will you continue to learn and discover the world? Or share the things you know with the people you love? The truth is, the future's unwritten, and the choice is still yours. Start by talking to your doctor about Prolia, or visit proliafuture.com for more.
My business isn't small. It's more small-gantic or small-normous.
With the new BMO Rewards Business MasterCard, you'll earn rewards points on all the purchases your business makes. Plus, get 35,000 welcome points and pay no annual fee for your first year. To apply or see the new small business credit cards, visit bmo.com/yourbiz.
It's small-mendous.
When a bank sees your business's potential, not just its size, that's the BMO effect. BMO, we're here to help. Terms and conditions apply.
Take a look around. What do you really see? This is where you can tell all about it. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett on Zoomer Radio.
And book buyers can anticipate the imminent release of American Hemp by Jen Hobbs with a foreword by Jesse Ventura. That's coming out April the 16th, but Amazon.com is taking pre-orders right now, and some discounts available for both the book and the Kindle version. And again, the newsletter, which is coming out, where you can get all the updates on this miraculous plant, AmericanHemp.substack.com. AmericanHemp.substack.com. You mentioned biofuel earlier. So hemp can be used. Would it be similar to like ethanol from corn?
Yes, exactly. And one of the problems that we have with corn is that obviously it's an agricultural crop and it can only be grown on agricultural land. So farmers have to decide, am I going to sell it for fuel or am I going to sell it for consumption? And I talk about that a lot in the book, where most of the other plants that are used for making biofuel, there's always that problem. Okay, so it's grown on agricultural land. We still need to eat, and we are wanting to decrease our dependence on fossil fuels. So it's a weird catch-22. And as we were talking about earlier, hemp can be grown pretty much anywhere in a lot of different types of soils. And when you're using it to extract toxins from the ground, or for some other purpose aside from food, you can take that biomass and use it for making biofuel out of it, or some other substance. So there's actually starting to be a supply chain for that right now, where if you're growing hemp for CBD, to just extract the CBD, the rest of the plant can be then shipped off to someone else who can make plastic out of it, or possibly even biofuel, or some other industry altogether. So it's pretty interesting how it's set up that way.
And how does hemp oil burn, or biofuel from hemp burn? What comes out the tailpipe?
That I don't know. I haven't actually seen it in action, but I'm actually not sure what it looks like on the other side.
Well, I'm guessing, like, it's not going to have benzene, or it's not going to have carbon monoxide, would it?
Yeah, I don't think it would have the same, because it's not made with the same same chemical.
Yeah, it would stand to reason that it would burn much cleaner. I don't know if we'd get the same, wallop that we do from petrol, but anyway, it's something to think about. You mentioned plastic, so we can make, because let's face it, plastic has just become an absolute scourge. I'm not just talking about nothing drives me nuts first thing in the spring is seeing plastic bags in trees. I don't know what it is. I can't stand it. But that's the least of our problems. We have, the oceans are just clogging with plastic. You can make a plastic-like substance from hemp. Is that right?
Right, exactly. And, the whole problem we have right now with microplastics, that's a whole other problem that we're having in the ocean, and how, pretty much everything in our food chain has been eating microplastics. So, we don't really know the full extent of what kind of damage that's going to cause. So hemp is an alternative. There are companies already that are making plastic, bioplastic, I guess you could call it, out of hemp and other natural fibers like flax. For just about anything you can think of, plastic wrap, that you use in your kitchen to put over food, and you put in the refrigerator. There's companies making glasses, the plastic that would go around your lenses, your prescription lenses. There are people that are making them out of hemp. Automobile manufacturers.
It's biodegradable, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And the way that it's made is a lot less. It's a lot better for the environment. It's not using as many chemicals. So a lot of automobile manufacturers, BMW, Toyota, even I saw Porsche recently. They're taking the door paneling and everything that they use the carbon fiber for,
right,
and they're using natural fibers, and that includes hemp. So it's really interesting to see that they're going that way to keep the weight of the car less for more fuel efficient cars, but also just as more of an eco-friendly approach.
My God, I mean the possibilities are endless. Your aunt from Texas, what did she say to you over the phone about hemp again?
Oh yeah, she just called it a modern snake oil because she couldn't understand how it's possible for all of these things to be made from one plant.
It does sound too good to be true. Is there any but? Is there any but?
Well, the one thing I guess that is kind of interesting is, there are so many uses for it, but for us to grow that much, I mean, we're not growing the quantity of hemp right now that we would need to really get into all of these industries, So while all of these things are possible, and there's some areas like I said, there's some, different corporations right now that are incorporating it. It's just not done yet on a very large scale. So, we'll just have to wait and see, just how long that process would take.
But if it could be grown on a large scale, what would this mean to the American economy as a whole? That's now $22 trillion in debt.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, the way I kind of look at it is, think about the internet. Okay. For example, everyone thought it was really neat when it first came out, and there were a bunch of different uses for it, but it really created so many opportunities that we couldn't even possibly imagine when, you first got your first home computer. I mean, you think about all the different jobs that have come out of Silicon Valley and how it's, part of our everyday lives now, from cell phones to, AI even, and we just can't even think about life without it. So that's really what I think the full potential of it could be. I mean, there could just be so many new things created and new industries created and existing industries just redefined by it.
Absolutely.
That, we just don't know.
Jen, you've given us...
It would be the new internet.
You've given us so much to think about. And get this, hemp can be grown without pesticides and herbicides like glyphosates. Glyphosates, folks. Big problem. All right, Jen, I'll have to have you on again. This was fantastic. American Hemp, available at Amazon.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right, all the best. Back next week, Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Eric Mitchell from MUFON with an interesting abduction story. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, don't be afraid. There's nothing concealed that won't be revealed, nothing hidden that won't be made known. What you hear in the dark, speak in the light. What I say in a whisper, proclaim from the housetops. Move over, Aphrodite. I'm coming home. Good night.